What if I told you that some of the most important archaeological discoveries in human history were found, documented, and then deliberately sealed from public examination? Not because they weren't significant, not because they lacked scientific value, but because what they revealed was too dangerous to the established narrative of human civilization. The official story is straightforward. Archaeological discoveries are made. Scientists study them. Museums display them. Knowledge advances. That's how it works. But evidence buried in restricted archives, hidden in classified facilities, and locked away on forbidden sites tells a very different story. Evidence of locations where discoveries were made and then covered up. Places where access was denied to independent researchers. Sites that governments and institutions refused to let anyone examine. Today, we're examining 10 archaeological sites that were forbidden from independent examination. We're talking about locations across the globe where something challenged everything, where evidence emerged that contradicted accepted history, where discoveries threatened powerful interests, and where access was systematically denied to anyone who might reveal the truth. Fair warning, this evidence contradicts what you've been taught about ancient civilizations. Some of it will challenge your understanding of human history, but the truth is always worth finding. These aren't legends. These are documented archaeological sites, locations that exist on maps, places where excavations occurred, sites with official records, but sites where access has been restricted, examination prevented, and independent verification denied for decades. The pattern repeats across continents and centuries. When archaeological evidence threatens established timelines, threatens religious orthodoxy, or reveals uncomfortable truths, that evidence gets locked away. And the sites where it was found become forbidden territory. 10 cases, 10 instances of forbidden access, 10 examples of systematic suppression. The evidence is documented, the locations are real, and what they reveal about the control of historical knowledge changes everything. Number 1. The Hall of Records beneath the Sphinx. The Great Sphinx of Giza is one of the most studied monuments in human history. According to mainstream Egyptology, it was built around 2500 BC during Pharaoh Khafre's reign. But beneath the Sphinx, something exists that Egyptian authorities absolutely refuse to let anyone examine. In the early 1990s, researchers using ground-penetrating radar detected large hollow spaces beneath and around the Sphinx. These weren't natural formations. These were chambers, rooms carved from bedrock. Dr. Thomas Dobecki, a geophysicist from Houston, conducted seismic testing in 1991. His team identified a rectangular chamber beneath the Sphinx's front paws. The dimensions suggested an artificial structure approximately 9 meters by 12 meters. Egyptian authorities acknowledged the finding but claimed the chamber was simply a natural cavity. When researchers requested permission to investigate further, the requests were denied. No explanation given. Just denied. But ancient Egyptian texts and Greek sources mention a hall of records beneath the Sphinx. Plato wrote about Egyptian priests who possessed knowledge from a much older civilization. The archaeological question remains: is there a chamber beneath the Sphinx? And if so, what's in it? Dr. Zahi Hawass, who served as Egypt's Minister of Antiquities, has given contradictory responses about this chamber. Sometimes he denies any chamber exists. Sometimes he admits chambers exist but claims they're empty. Sometimes he says they haven't been explored. Sometimes he says they have been explored but contain nothing significant. These contradictions raise obvious questions. If there's nothing there, why not allow independent examination? Why not settle the matter definitively? Why the inconsistent explanations? In 1998, Dr. Hawass supposedly explored shafts beneath the Sphinx using a robot camera. According to Hawass, they found nothing significant, just empty tunnels. But no independent researchers were allowed to observe. No footage was released to the scientific community. No peer-reviewed publications documented the findings. It was essentially a "trust us, there's nothing there" situation. When researchers requested access to examine the chambers independently, requests were denied. When they asked for raw data and footage, they were refused. Egyptian authorities classified the information. Why? If the chambers are empty, what's the harm in allowing independent verification? Why the secrecy? Why the inconsistent stories? Why the absolute refusal? The pattern suggests something is being hidden. Either something was found that contradicts accepted Egyptian history, or authorities know something is there and don't want it examined. The geological evidence doesn't help their case. Dr. Robert Schoch's analysis of water erosion suggests the Sphinx is at least 7,000 years old. That would place its construction thousands of years before ancient Egypt supposedly existed. If the Sphinx is that old, if it predates dynastic Egypt, then everything about the origins of civilization needs reconsidering. And if there's a hall of records containing evidence of that older civilization, that evidence would completely rewrite history. That's too threatening. So the chamber remains forbidden, access denied, independent examination prevented, and the truth of what lies beneath the Sphinx stays hidden. When somebody works this hard to prevent examination, there's a reason. And that reason has nothing to do with preservation. It has everything to do with protecting a narrative from evidence that might destroy it. The chamber is there. The seismic data proves it. And whatever is inside has been deemed too dangerous to let anyone see. Number 2. The Tomb of Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan conquered more territory than any human in history. He created the largest contiguous empire ever known. He died in 1227 AD. And according to legend, he was buried in a secret location with treasures from across his empire. Nobody knows where that tomb is. Or more accurately, some people know exactly where it is, but they've been forbidden from excavating it. In 2004, researchers from the University of California used satellite imaging to identify a likely location in the Kentiai Mountains of Mongolia. They found evidence of ancient construction, deliberate landscaping, and anomalies consistent with a major burial site. The Mongolian government immediately shut down the research. The team was ordered to leave the country. Their permits were revoked. Satellite data was confiscated. All research materials were seized. The official explanation was respect for Mongolian cultural sensitivities. According to tradition, Genghis Khan's burial site is sacred. It should remain undisturbed. Any excavation would be disrespectful. That sounds reasonable until you examine the details. The Mongolian government has allowed archaeological excavations at numerous other historical sites. They've permitted research on other Mongolian rulers. They've supported international teams investigating Mongolian history. But not the tomb of Genghis Khan. That one is absolutely forbidden. Why? What makes this tomb different? Why is this particular site so protected when other equally significant locations can be studied? Historical records suggest Genghis Khan possessed technologies that seemed impossibly advanced for the 13th century. Chinese sources mention weapons and siege equipment that shouldn't have existed. European accounts describe Mongol military capabilities that defied contemporary understanding. If the tomb contains artifacts from that era, they might challenge our understanding of medieval technology. They might reveal knowledge systems the Mongols possessed that aren't acknowledged in standard history. The tomb likely contains treasures looted from across the empire: Chinese artifacts, Persian treasures, Russian items, European objects. a collection that would provide unprecedented insight into 13th century trade and technology. But it's not just what's in the tomb, it's what the tomb itself might reveal. The construction methods, the astronomical alignments, the engineering techniques used to create a burial site that has remained hidden for 8 centuries. In 2006, another team attempted to gain permission for a non-invasive survey using ground-penetrating radar. Request denied. In 2011, a National Geographic team proposed a documentary using satellite imagery without physical excavation. Permission denied. Every attempt to study the site has been blocked. The Mongolian government maintains absolute control. They cite cultural sensitivity, but they've never explained why this site is untouchable, while others aren't. Insider sources suggest a different explanation. They claim the government knows exactly where the tomb is. They've sent limited expeditions to verify its location. And what they found convinced them that the site must never be examined by international researchers. The tomb of the most powerful conqueror in human history exists somewhere in those mountains. Evidence suggests researchers have identified its location, but it remains forbidden, off-limits. Protected not by distance, but by government decree. When a site of this historical significance is deliberately kept from examination, when every attempt to study it is blocked, when explanations don't match actual policies, it suggests something is being hidden. The tomb holds secrets that someone has decided the world isn't allowed to know, and until that changes, those secrets remain locked away in the forbidden mountains of Mongolia. Number 3. The Vatican's Secret Archives. The Vatican maintains one of the largest collections of historical documents on Earth. Estimates suggest over 53 miles of shelving containing documents spanning 12 centuries. It's called the Vatican's Secret Archives, though the Vatican claims secret is a mistranslation. But private, from whom? And why? The Vatican claims the archives contain mundane administrative documents, papal correspondence, church records, financial documents. Nothing mysterious, just historical paperwork being preserved. Except that's not entirely accurate. The Vatican has repeatedly denied access to documents that historians have specifically requested. Documents that would shed light on critical historical events. Documents that would clarify controversial periods of church history. In the 1990s, the Vatican finally opened a small section related to World War II. Historians had been requesting this access for decades. When documents were reviewed, they revealed that the Vatican had extensive knowledge of Nazi activities much earlier than previously acknowledged. But even those documents were heavily redacted. Entire sections blacked out. Pages missing from sequences. Documents referenced in other materials, but mysteriously absent. What else is being hidden? Researchers have identified numerous controversies where Vatican documents would provide definitive answers, but access is denied. The Inquisition records, documents about the Knights Templar suppression, papers concerning the Council of Nicaea, records about early Christian manuscripts excluded from the Bible. In 2019, the Vatican announced it would open archives related to Pope Pius XII. Historians expected unprecedented access. What they got was a carefully curated selection with continued restrictions on sensitive materials. But there's a deeper level to Vatican secrecy. The archives reportedly contain archaeological documents, evidence from excavations the Church has conducted over centuries, reports from missions to ancient sites, documents related to artifacts held in Vatican collections that aren't on public display. During the Renaissance, the Church funded numerous expeditions to ancient sites in the Middle East, Egypt, and across Europe. Reports from these expeditions were sent to Rome. Those reports are in the archives, but scholars who study ancient history are denied access. Why? What do those archaeological reports contain? What did Church expeditions find that remains classified centuries later? Some researchers believe the archives contain documents proving the Church possessed knowledge of ancient civilizations that contradicts biblical chronology. Evidence of advanced cultures that existed before dates traditionally assigned to human civilization. Artifacts that challenge Church teachings about human origins. The Vatican's official position is that they're protecting historical documents from damage, that conservation requires limited access, that scholars must go through extensive approval processes, but historians who have attempted access report something different. They report that certain categories of documents are simply off-limits. No matter what credentials you have, some things are forbidden. Dr. Richard Carrier, a historian who has studied early Christianity, spent years trying to access specific documents related to Christian doctrine development. Despite impressive credentials and legitimate research purposes, his requests were denied without explanation. This pattern repeats across academic disciplines. Researchers with appropriate credentials are denied access to documents that would answer historical questions. The denials aren't based on qualifications. They're based on the sensitivity of material being requested. The Vatican archives are estimated to contain documents that wouldn't be fully cataloged for centuries at current staffing levels. Nobody except Vatican insiders knows the full scope of what's hidden there. Nobody knows what archaeological evidence has been documented and buried. And that's exactly how the Vatican wants it. Total control over historical information. Total discretion over what gets revealed and when. Total power to prevent independent researchers from examining evidence that might challenge Church authority. The Vatican secret archives remain one of the most significant forbidden archaeological resources in the world. 12 centuries of documentation kept behind locked doors, accessible only to those the Church approves, controlled by an institution with every incentive to suppress anything threatening its narrative. When somebody possesses, number 4, the Buseghi Mountains discovery. In 2003, an archaeological team from Romania allegedly made an extraordinary discovery in the Buseghi Mountains. Using advanced ground-penetrating radar provided by the Pentagon, they detected enormous artificial structures deep inside the mountains. According to leaked reports, the team found evidence of chambers, tunnels, and structures carved using technology that shouldn't exist. The walls showed perfect machining. The dimensions suggested advanced mathematical knowledge. The scope indicated a vast underground complex. When initial drilling confirmed the radar findings, Romanian authorities immediately classified the discovery. The site was declared off-limits. The archaeological team was disbanded. Information was suppressed. American military personnel arrived within days. According to witnesses, Pentagon representatives took control. Romanian military established a perimeter. Access was forbidden to all civilian personnel, including the researchers who made the discovery. What exactly was found? Official sources have never confirmed the discovery. The Romanian government claims the entire story is fabricated. American military denies any involvement. But evidence suggests something significant was found. Satellite imagery shows increased activity during 2003 and 2004. Construction of access roads where none existed before. Movement of equipment and personnel. Establishment of a restricted military zone. Local residents reported seeing military helicopters and equipment transported into the mountains. Romanian military veterans have spoken anonymously about being stationed at a classified facility during that period. They describe underground chambers and artifacts but were sworn to secrecy. One leaked document, allegedly from the Romanian Department of Zero, describes holographic projection systems found in the chambers, technology that could display three-dimensional images with impossible clarity. Artifacts that appeared to be advanced computer-like devices, wall carvings showing astronomical knowledge predating modern astronomy by thousands of years. The document describes a massive stone table in the main chamber. On its surface, holographic projections allegedly appeared showing human civilization history, maps of landmasses as they existed in ancient times, star charts showing constellations from different epochs, information that shouldn't exist. Whether this document is authentic remains debated, but what's documented is the establishment of a restricted military zone in the Busegi Mountains, a zone that didn't exist before 2003, a zone that remains off-limits today. Researchers who have attempted to investigate report being turned away by armed guards. Hiking trails that previously existed were closed. The entire mountain region became inaccessible. Dr. Zhao Yung, a geologist who was part of the initial survey team, left Romania shortly after the discovery. He now lives in Canada and has spoken carefully about what he witnessed. He confirms that anomalous structures were detected deep in the mountains. He confirms that Romanian authorities classified the discovery. But he refuses to describe what was found, citing legal agreements and personal safety concerns. The pattern matches other cases of archaeological suppression: initial discovery by legitimate researchers, immediate military intervention, classification and restriction, denial that anything significant was found, permanent prevention of independent examination. What could be in those mountains that requires this level of suppression? Why would both Romanian and American military get involved? Why the permanent restriction if it's just natural geological formations? The official silence is deafening. Neither Romanian nor American authorities will discuss the Busegi site. Freedom of information requests have been denied. Journalists who investigated found doors closed at every level. Whatever was discovered in the Busegi Mountains in 2003 remains one of the most tightly controlled archaeological secrets of the modern era. A discovery significant enough to warrant immediate military classification. A site forbidden to all examination. A location that officially doesn't contain anything unusual, while being guarded as if it contains something extraordinary. The mountains remain off-limits. The chambers, if they exist, remain unexplored by independent researchers. And the truth of what lies beneath the Busegi Mountains stays locked behind military classification and absolute denial. Number 5. The Bosnian Pyramid Complex. In 2005, Dr. Semir Osmanagic announced the discovery of what he claimed were ancient pyramids in Bosnia, near the town of Visoko. He identified several mountains that he believed were pyramid structures covered by soil and vegetation over thousands of years. The largest, which he called the Pyramid of the Sun, would be taller than the Great Pyramid of Giza if his claims were accurate. The structures showed geometric precision, orientation to cardinal directions, tunnel systems beneath them, artificial concrete-like materials in their construction. Initial excavations revealed intriguing findings: precisely cut stone blocks, smooth tunnels carved through solid rock, construction materials that laboratory analysis suggested were artificial rather than natural, astronomical alignments indicating advanced knowledge. Then the establishment attacked. Mainstream archaeologists dismissed the entire discovery as pseudoscience. The European Association of Archaeologists issued statements condemning the excavations. Academic institutions refused to examine the evidence. Media coverage turned overwhelmingly negative. But critics often ignore independent laboratory analysis of material samples that has confirmed unusual properties. The concrete-like substance found at the site has characteristics suggesting human manufacture. Radiocarbon dating of organic material found in the structures yielded ages of over 25,000 years. 25,000 years. That would make these structures older than any known civilization, older than the last ice age in that region, older than conventional archaeology says humans were capable of building monumental structures. That's why the discovery had to be suppressed, not because the evidence isn't there, but because the evidence threatens everything about the accepted timeline of human civilization. The Bosnian government initially supported the excavations. Tourism increased. International volunteers joined the dig. Progress was being made. Then pressure mounted. European academic institutions threatened to cut funding for all Bosnian archaeological projects if the pyramid excavations continued. International archaeological societies condemned the project. UNESCO signaled that continued work would jeopardize Bosnia's standing. The Bosnian government faced a choice: support controversial research that threatened international relationships, or back away from the pyramid claims. They chose politics over truth. Funding was reduced. Official support disappeared. Dr. Osmanagic was marginalized and ridiculed. The site, while not officially forbidden, became effectively off-limits to serious archaeological investigation. But the evidence doesn't disappear because it's inconvenient. The geometric structures are still there. The tunnels still exist. The artificial materials can still be analyzed. The astronomical alignments remain. What the establishment did was make sure no mainstream institution would touch the site. No major university would fund research there. No respected journal would publish findings. Academic careers would be destroyed for anyone who supported the pyramid thesis. It's suppression through professional isolation. The site isn't physically forbidden, but examining it with an open mind is career suicide for any archaeologist who wants to work in mainstream institutions. Dr. Osmanagic continues his work with private funding and volunteers. He's uncovered more tunnels, more structures, more evidence. But without establishment support, his findings are dismissed, regardless of merit. Independent researchers who have visited and examined the evidence firsthand report being convinced that something artificial exists there. Engineers have noted the precision of tunnel construction. Geologists have confirmed the unusual materials. Surveyors have documented the geometric alignments. But none of this matters to mainstream archaeology. They've decided the Bosnian pyramids don't exist. Therefore, any evidence suggesting they do must be ignored, dismissed, or explained away. The pattern is clear. When archaeological evidence challenges the established timeline, professional gatekeepers mobilize to suppress it. Not through honest scientific debate, but through institutional pressure, career threats, and collective denial. The Bosnian pyramid complex exists. Anyone can visit and see the excavations. But serious archaeological examination has been effectively forbidden through academic and political pressure. The truth of what those structures are and who built them remains hidden behind walls of professional opposition. Number 6. The Grand Canyon Egyptian Connection. In 1909, the Arizona Gazette published an extraordinary article. The article described a discovery made by G. E. Kincaid, an explorer surveying the Grand Canyon for the Smithsonian Institution. According to the article, Kincaid found a carved entrance high in the canyon walls. Inside, he discovered an enormous cave system containing artifacts that appeared to be Egyptian in origin. Statues, hieroglyphics, mummies, artifacts that had no business being in Arizona. The article stated that Smithsonian archaeologist S. A. Jordan was leading an expedition to fully explore the site. The cave system was described as vast, containing hundreds of rooms carved from rock. The artifacts suggested a significant Egyptian presence in North America thousands of years ago. Then nothing. No follow-up articles. No Smithsonian publications. No official reports. The story vanished. When researchers in later decades tried to find information, they hit walls. The Smithsonian claimed no record of G.E. Kincaid, no record of S.A. Jordan, no record of any such expedition. The entire story was dismissed as a hoax. But there are problems with that dismissal. The Arizona Gazette was a legitimate newspaper. The article was detailed and specific, including precise locations. It wasn't written like a sensationalist hoax. It read like a factual news report. Researchers have attempted to locate the cave system described in the article. The coordinates given place it in a section of the Grand Canyon that's restricted by the National Park Service. The area is off-limits to hikers and tourists. No explanation is given for why this particular section is forbidden. Helicopter pilots who flew over the region report seeing what appears to be a carved entrance high in the canyon wall, exactly where the article described. But when they inquired, they were told it's a restricted area and no landings are permitted. Park rangers who worked in the Grand Canyon have spoken anonymously about being instructed never to discuss certain areas with tourists. When asked why specific regions are off-limits, they're told it's for safety reasons, but the terrain in those areas is no more dangerous than accessible regions nearby. The Smithsonian has been asked repeatedly about this discovery. Their official position hasn't changed. No such expedition occurred. No such artifacts exist. The entire story is fiction. But why would the Arizona Gazette publish such a detailed fabrication? What was the motive? And why does the Smithsonian have no records at all of people mentioned in the article? The timing is suspicious. In the early 20th century, evidence of pre-Columbian contact between Old World and New World civilizations was being systematically suppressed. The narrative of Christopher Columbus discovering a pristine, isolated continent was being aggressively promoted. Any evidence of earlier contact threatened that narrative. Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon would prove transoceanic contact thousands of years before Columbus. That was unacceptable to the establishment narrative. So if such artifacts were found, they would have been confiscated and hidden, the site would have been sealed, and the story would have been buried. Which is exactly what appears to have happened. The initial report was published. Once the Smithsonian realized the implications, everything was shut down. Records were destroyed or classified. The site was restricted, and the official story became, "It never happened." Researchers who have tried to get permits to explore the restricted sections for archaeological purposes report being denied without explanation. The Park Service won't discuss it. The Smithsonian won't acknowledge it. The entire matter is treated as closed. But the original article still exists. The restricted area still exists. And the questions remain unanswered. If nothing is there, why not allow examination? If it's all a hoax, why restrict access? Why the absolute refusal to discuss it? The Grand Canyon covers enormous area. Most is explored and accessible, but certain sections remain forbidden. Areas where, according to a detailed 1909 report, evidence of ancient Egyptian presence in North America was discovered. That evidence would rewrite pre-Columbian history. It would prove advanced ancient navigation. It would challenge everything about the isolation of Native American civilizations. So it was forbidden, access denied, evidence buried, and the official story became, "It never existed." But somewhere in those restricted canyons, the truth remains, hidden behind Park Service restrictions and Smithsonian denials, waiting for. Number 7. The Temple Mount Chambers. The Temple Mount in Jerusalem is one of the most religiously significant and archaeologically sensitive locations on Earth. It's sacred to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It's also where the Ark of the Covenant was supposedly kept in Solomon's temple. According to biblical accounts, the Ark disappeared when Babylonians destroyed the first temple in 586 BC. Its location has been one of history's greatest mysteries. In the late 19th century, British archaeologist Charles Warren conducted excavations beneath the Temple Mount. He mapped extensive tunnel systems and chambers carved into bedrock. His reports described sealed rooms he was prevented from opening by Ottoman authorities. Warren believed he had located chambers directly beneath where Solomon's temple once stood, chambers that might contain artifacts from the temple, possibly including the Ark. But his excavations were halted. The Ottoman government, under pressure from religious authorities, forbade further exploration. Since then, the Temple Mount has been under control of the Islamic Waqf. They have absolutely forbidden any archaeological excavation in the area. The stated reason is preservation of the holy site and respect for religious sanctity. But there's another factor. In the 1960s, Rabbi Yehuda Getz led a secret excavation team into the tunnels beneath the Temple Mount. According to reports, they were searching for the Ark. What happened next is disputed. According to some accounts, the team broke through into a sealed chamber. They saw something inside. Before they could investigate further, Waqf officials discovered the excavation. There was a violent confrontation. The Israeli government ordered the tunnel sealed with concrete to prevent religious conflict. What was in that chamber? Rabbi Getz, before his death, hinted that they had found something significant. He never described it explicitly, but he stated that the Ark was beneath the Temple Mount and would be revealed at the appropriate time. The tunnel entrance was permanently sealed. The Waqf forbids any further excavation. Israeli authorities agreed to respect that prohibition to maintain religious peace. So whatever is in those chambers remains unexplored. In 1999, Israeli archaeologists used remote sensing equipment to map underground areas beneath the Temple Mount. The data showed numerous sealed chambers and passages. Some appeared to be artificial structures of considerable size and sophistication. When archaeologists requested permission to investigate, permission was denied. The Waqf considers any excavation beneath the Temple Mount to be desecration. The Israeli government won't override that decision due to political and religious sensitivities. So the chambers remain sealed. Technology confirms they exist. Historical accounts suggest they contain artifacts from Solomon's temple, but religious and political considerations prevent any examination. This isn't just about one artifact. It's about an entire archaeological complex that could provide unprecedented insight into biblical history, the construction methods of Solomon's temple, the artifacts and treasures that were housed there, the historical accuracy of biblical accounts. All of this could be verified or disproven. But examination is forbidden, not because it's unsafe, not because it's technically impossible, but because multiple authorities have decided that some truths are too dangerous to reveal. Whether the Ark of the Covenant is actually there is secondary to the fact that significant archaeological structures exist beneath one of humanity's most important historical sites, and nobody is allowed to examine them. Knowledge that could transform our understanding of ancient history is being suppressed due to religious sensitivities and political concerns. The Temple Mount chambers remain among the most significant forbidden archaeological sites on Earth, known to exist, mapped by technology, historically documented, but absolutely off-limits to investigation. And the truth of what they contain remains one of archaeology's most closely guarded secrets. Number 8. The Great Pyramid Internal Chambers. The Great Pyramid of Giza is the most studied ancient structure on Earth. It's been measured, mapped, and analyzed using every available technology. Yet there are chambers inside that have never been opened. Chambers discovered decades ago, but remain sealed and forbidden. In 2017, scientists using cosmic ray muon tomography detected a large void above the Grand Gallery. The void is approximately 100 feet long, with a similar cross-section to the Grand Gallery below. It's been dubbed the Big Void and represents a significant unknown chamber in a structure thought to be completely mapped. The discovery was published in the journal Nature. The scientific community acknowledged it. The chamber is real. Multiple independent measurements confirmed it. So what's inside? How do we open it and examine it? The answer? We don't. Egyptian authorities have forbidden any invasive investigation. Dr. Zahi Hawass dismissed the discovery as unimportant. He claimed the void was likely just a structural feature, nothing significant. He stated there would be no drilling or opening of the chamber. Why? If it's just a structural feature, why not verify that? If there's nothing important inside, what's the harm in looking? Why forbid examination of a major discovery? But this isn't the only forbidden chamber in the Great Pyramid. In the 19th century, Colonel Howard Weiss allegedly discovered a sealed shaft leading downward from the king's chamber. His notebooks describe the discovery but contain no detailed exploration. When modern researchers tried to investigate this shaft, they were denied access. In 1993, Rudolf Gantenbrink used a robot to explore shafts leading from the Queen's chamber. The robot discovered a door with metal pins at the end of one shaft. What's behind that door? Nobody knows. Egyptian authorities forbade further investigation. In 2002, another robot drilled through the door and found another door. Behind that door is an unknown chamber. Requests to explore further were denied. Think about that. We have the technology to examine these chambers. We have robots small enough to navigate the shafts. We have cameras that can show us what's there, but we're not allowed to look. Egyptian authorities claim they're protecting the pyramid from damage, but modern technology can examine these spaces with minimal or no damage to the structure. The real concern isn't preservation. It's control of information. What could be in those sealed chambers that authorities don't want examined? Some researchers believe the chambers contain artifacts proving the Great Pyramid is older than officially acknowledged. Others think they might contain texts or records from an earlier civilization. Some believe the chambers have astronomical or mathematical significance that challenges current understanding. Whatever the reason, the pattern is clear. Chambers exist. They've been detected by modern technology. They could be examined with minimal risk, but examination is forbidden. The same pattern appears at other Egyptian monuments. Sealed chambers in the Second Pyramid, unexplored passages beneath the Valley Temple, shafts in the Sphinx that haven't been fully investigated. In every case, once something potentially significant is discovered, investigation is shut down. Egyptian authorities maintain absolute control over all archaeological activity in Egypt. They decide what can be studied and what can't. They grant access to researchers who support orthodox theories and deny access to those who challenge accepted narratives. The Great Pyramid chambers represent a perfect example of this control. Significant discoveries confirmed by peer-reviewed science. Chambers that could provide revolutionary insights, but forever off-limits because authorities have decided the public doesn't need to know what's inside. The technology exists to explore these chambers completely. The scientific community wants to examine them, but political and institutional gatekeeping prevents it. And so the chambers remain sealed. The Big Void exists, documented and confirmed, but unexplored. The doors in the Queen's chamber shafts remain locked. The truth of what lies hidden in humanity's most famous monument stays hidden, not because we can't find out, but because we're not allowed to. Number 9. China's Forbidden Pyramids. In the Shanxi province of China, near the city of Xi'an, there are dozens of ancient pyramid structures. Some are enormous, rivaling the Egyptian pyramids in size. They've been photographed from the air, they're visible on satellite imagery. They exist. But the Chinese government forbids examination of most of these structures. Foreign archaeologists are denied permits. Chinese archaeologists work under strict government control and cannot publish findings without approval. The most famous is the mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. This site includes the famous terracotta army, thousands of life-sized clay soldiers discovered in 1974. Tourists can visit the excavated portions. But the actual tomb of Emperor Qin remains completely sealed. It's a massive, pyramid-shaped mound that has never been opened. Chinese authorities claim they're waiting for preservation technology to improve before excavating. That sounds reasonable until you examine the details. The tomb has been sealed for over 2,000 years. Whatever preservation challenges exist aren't going to change significantly with time. Modern technology already exists to explore sealed spaces with minimal risk. The real reason might be what historical accounts say is inside. Ancient Chinese texts describe the tomb chamber as containing a model of the emperor's kingdom, rivers of Mercury representing China's rivers, a ceiling decorated with celestial bodies, elaborate mechanisms and booby traps. Some descriptions have been verified. Ground-penetrating radar has detected what appears to be mercury deposits inside. Unusually high mercury concentrations in surrounding soil support this. So at least part of the ancient accounts appears accurate. But there's something else in those ancient accounts. Descriptions of technologies and capabilities that shouldn't have existed in 3rd century BC China. Mechanisms for preservation. Sophisticated engineering. Knowledge that seems anachronistic. If the tomb contains evidence of advanced technology in ancient China, it would challenge accepted historical narratives. It would suggest knowledge transmission from earlier civilizations. It would raise uncomfortable questions about what ancient cultures knew. So the tomb stays sealed. The Chinese government maintains absolute control. No foreign researchers are allowed anywhere near it. Chinese archaeologists work under strict government supervision and cannot freely publish findings. This pattern extends to other pyramid sites in China. Over 100 pyramid structures exist in the region. Most have never been officially excavated. The Chinese government dismisses them as natural hills or minor burial mounds, despite clear evidence of artificial construction. Aerial photography from the mid-20th century clearly shows geometric structures. Satellite imagery confirms precise orientations and measurements, but access is forbidden. Permits are denied. The area is restricted. When foreign researchers have tried to visit these sites, they've been turned away by military personnel. Some pyramid sites are in restricted military zones, making any access impossible. Why would ancient burial mounds be in military-restricted zones? What are they protecting? If these are just old tombs with nothing unusual, why the extreme security? The pattern suggests suppression of archaeological evidence that challenges official Chinese history. The government tightly controls historical narratives. Archaeological findings that don't fit those narratives are hidden or reinterpreted. Emperor Qin's tomb contains answers. Those pyramid structures hold knowledge, but the Chinese government has decided that knowledge must remain hidden. Foreign examination is absolutely forbidden. Even Chinese archaeologists work under restrictions that prevent full disclosure. The tomb of China's first emperor remains one of the most significant unexamined archaeological sites in the world. Technology exists to explore it safely. Scientists worldwide want to study it. But politics and control of historical narrative prevent it. And so it stays sealed. The Mercury rivers flow in darkness. The celestial ceiling gleams unseen. The technologies and artifacts that could rewrite ancient Chinese history remain locked away. Not because we lack the capability to examine them, but because those in power have decided we're not allowed to. Number 10. The Antarctic ice structures. In 2016, satellite imagery of Antarctica revealed what appeared to be artificial structures, partially exposed by melting ice. The images showed geometric shapes, right angles, and formations that didn't match natural geological processes. Researchers who examined the satellite data noted that some formations resembled pyramids, others looked like walls or foundations. The scale suggested massive construction, potentially ancient structures predating known civilizations. When researchers requested permission to conduct ground-based expeditions to examine these formations, they were denied. The Antarctic Treaty governs all activity on the continent. Under the treaty, archaeological expeditions require approval from multiple governments. Those approvals were not granted. The official explanation was environmental protection. Antarctica is a pristine environment. Any expedition must minimize impact. Archaeological investigations weren't deemed priority research. But that explanation doesn't hold up. Antarctica hosts numerous research stations and scientific expeditions, geological surveys, climate research, biological studies. All involve human presence and environmental impact. Archaeological research would be no more invasive. The real issue is what those structures might represent. If artificial structures exist in Antarctica, they were built before the continent was covered in ice. That means they're at least 12,000 years old, possibly much older. That predates all known civilizations. Structures in Antarctica would prove that either human civilization is far older than acknowledged, or that some other civilization existed before recorded history. Either conclusion rewrites everything about human origins. In 2017, independent researchers planned a privately funded expedition to examine the structures. They secured necessary equipment and personnel. When they applied for permits, they were denied by multiple governments. No explanation was provided beyond vague references to treaty compliance. Satellite imagery continues to show the formations. As ice melts due to climate change, more potentially artificial structures become visible. Each new revelation makes the case stronger that something significant is buried under Antarctic ice. But examination remains forbidden. No archaeological expeditions are approved. Researchers who get too insistent find their careers impacted. Funding disappears. Academic institutions distance themselves. There's a deeper layer to this suppression. Multiple governments have vested interest in Antarctica. The continent contains vast mineral resources. Multiple nations have territorial claims. There are rumors of classified military installations. If ancient structures exist there, they represent an archaeological discovery of unprecedented significance. But they also represent something powerful interests want hidden. Perhaps because of what the structures themselves reveal. Perhaps because of where they are and what else is nearby. Whistleblowers who have worked in Antarctic research stations have spoken anonymously about restricted areas, regions where civilian scientists aren't allowed, expeditions that happen without public knowledge, discoveries that are classified immediately. One former U.S. Navy serviceman claimed he was part of a classified expedition that examined artificial structures beneath Antarctic ice. His account described precise geometric construction, materials that shouldn't exist, and technology that defied explanation. He provided no proof. His claims were dismissed as fabrication. But the satellite imagery is real. The formations are visible. They exist. And access to examine them is absolutely forbidden. The Antarctic structures represent the ultimate forbidden archaeological site, potentially the oldest human constructions on Earth, possibly evidence of civilizations predating recorded history. Located on a continent governed by international treaty that provides cover for preventing examination. Whatever lies beneath Antarctic ice stays hidden, protected by international agreement, shielded by extreme environment, kept secret by multiple governments who have decided the world isn't ready for what's there. The structures remain. The ice slowly melts. More becomes visible each year. But examination is denied. Investigation is forbidden. And the truth of what ancient civilization built in Antarctica before it was frozen remains locked away. Not by ice, but by human decision. by political calculation, by those who control access to knowledge and have 10 cases, 10 instances where archaeological sites were forbidden from examination, where evidence exists but verification is prevented, where access is systematically denied. The Hall of Records beneath the Sphinx, chambers detected but unexplored, the tomb of Genghis Khan, located but sealed, the Vatican's secret archives, 12 centuries of documents locked away, the Busegi Mountains, military zones protecting underground structures, the Bosnian pyramids, academically suppressed through professional isolation, the Grand Canyon Egyptian connection, restricted areas preventing investigation, the Temple Mount chambers, sealed by religious and political decree, the Great Pyramid voids, detected but forbidden, China's pyramids and Emperor Qin's tomb, controlled and classified, Antarctic structures, visible but unreachable. The pattern is undeniable. When archaeological evidence threatens established narratives, access is restricted. When discoveries challenge accepted history, examination is prevented. When sites contain information that powerful interests want hidden, those sites become forbidden. This isn't coincidence. This is systematic suppression of archaeological knowledge. Evidence exists that would challenge our understanding of human history. That evidence is deliberately kept from examination, and the institutions that control access have decided the public doesn't need to know. The evidence is buried in classified files, hidden in restricted archives, locked away on forbidden sites. But the pattern can't be hidden. Once you see it, it's everywhere. Every forbidden site follows the same script: discovery, brief investigation, then sudden restriction, official explanations that don't withstand scrutiny, denial of permits to qualified researchers, professional consequences for those who persist, absolute refusal to allow independent verification. The question isn't whether these sites contain significant evidence. The restrictions prove they do. The question is what that evidence reveals and why examination must be prevented. Throughout history, those who control knowledge control power. By restricting access to archaeological sites, by preventing independent examination, by suppressing evidence that challenges accepted narratives, institutions maintain control over our understanding of human history. The truth always wants to emerge. Suppression works temporarily, but evidence surfaces. Satellite imagery reveals what was hidden. Technology detects what was buried. Patterns become visible despite attempts to obscure them. That's why examining these forbidden sites matters. Why questioning restrictions matters. Why demanding independent verification matters. Why refusing to accept official narratives without evidence matters. The evidence has been presented. The patterns revealed. 10 forbidden archaeological sites, where examination is prevented, access is denied, and truth is suppressed. The choice of what to believe is yours. But remember this: when somebody works this hard to prevent examination, when restrictions are this consistent, when explanations don't hold up to scrutiny, there's a reason. They're hiding something. Something significant enough to justify systematic suppression. Something that would challenge our understanding of human history. Something that those in power have decided we're not allowed to know. The sites remain forbidden. The chambers stay sealed. The evidence is kept from examination. Not because it doesn't exist, but because it does. Stay curious, stay skeptical, stay informed, and demand the truth. Because the greatest secret isn't what's hidden in these forbidden sites. It's the fact that those in power believe they have the right to hide it from us in the first place.